Dexa day. I want it to be a Dexa day. It's my favorite day of the year for KindEdge.com, KindEdge 360. It's my check-in for myself to see if I'm doing things right in a data-driven way with my Dexa Scan. So let's talk a little bit, and you can come along with me for my annual Dexa Scan. Let's go. Okay, so today I'm doing my annual Dexa Scan. This is not the Dexa Scan that your doctor prescribes to just check your bones. This is a private, self-paid fitness, lean mass, fat mass, everything data-driven measurement of what is true. And in KindEdge 360, so anytime you're trying to achieve a big life goal, personal growth, career change, start a charity, start a business, get a divorce, whatever it is that big change is, it is a war. It is a battle against everything else and everyone else in the world who wants your time and your energy. So even if you're doing something like, I just want to write a book, you will realize that getting physically fit, mentally fit, soulfully fit, systematically fit is the foundational piece that's going to unlock all of the big goals that you want to achieve. You cannot go into something emotional without being physically fit. You literally have to have your blood sugar managed, your emotions managed, your fitness managed. You need to be physically strong and fit and everything to be able to get through the days and to make that a sustainable long-term journey, even if you're just working on something internally personal growth and emotional. So it all is connected, and you have to start with the foundation to really have the ability and not have those invisible barriers hit you in the middle of your big goals. Right down to, let's say you want to give a talk. You have to be physically fit to be able to manage your breathing, to not get too nervous if you're giving a speech or a talk. Everything is connected. So every year for the past handful of years, sorry, I'm walking my dog, so sometimes my hand gets pulled. Say hi to Donovan. See, can I do this? Hi, Donovan. So all of these things are connected, and you've got to be building the foundational blocks, because if your body checks out on you, that's the only machine that you have to depend on. You only get one machine per life. So you got to keep your body wanting to get all the other things done on top of it. So annually, my boys and I go to a Dexa Scan. My boys are adult young men, very physically fit. Right now, my older son is in the UK, doing his amazing F1 motorsports career. And so it will be today just me and my younger son, who happens to be studying this type of health and medical fitness physiology type of stuff in college. And so we have always gone on this annual Dexa Scan. We get a total read on our lean mass. We get a total read on our fat mass. We get a view of what parts of that is in your organs and in the outer parts. I mean, you get it down to you get a visual map of your body. What is organs? What is visceral fat? You get every bit of detail, and then you get it year on year. And since I'm over 50, 53, It's absolutely critical that I am building. So I have to be building muscle in order to even maintain muscle. And if you don't maintain muscle, this is what happens. You trip and fall, and you have to be working on your fast twitch, your slow twitch, and all of your workouts and everything. If you aren't doing that in a fierce energy, like in order to be able to fit in my workout and the Dexa scan, I got up at 4:30 this morning and went to a 5:30 hot yoga class, which is very physically strenuous. And I make sure to build that in. Like if I have to get up at 3:30 to fit it in, I'll fit it in. And certainly I'll get a great night's sleep the night before. I'll get a great night's sleep later tonight. But you have to fit all these things in, because if you don't have that fast twitch, slow twitch, very strong, I'm not trying to brag, but I have very strong thigh muscles, calf muscles, arm muscles. So if I'm out on a walk like this and I trip and fall, I'm going to have the muscles and the physical reaction to be able to catch myself. I will also have the bone density so that I won't hurt my hip and break a bone, because what happens is over 50, there's a statistic, and I'm not going to quote it absolutely specifically, but over 50, there's this pattern where if you trip and fall and then you break a hip, oh, here's Rocco. Okay, we got Rocco coming. So I'm going to pause a little bit because Rocco gets excited. That's my buddy, and that's his dog, Rocco. So yeah, make sure that you're maintaining your muscle mass. Important that you're maintaining. No, Donovan, we're gonna go this way, buddy. I'm shortcutting him now because I have to go do the Dexa scan. Donovan, come on. What? He's like, let's walk more, and I'm like, no, we're doing it short. Okay, so back on focus. Got a little distracted. Donovan's gonna mark his territory here. Okay, so it is absolutely critical, if you're gonna reach any goal and if you're gonna have the sustainability to do this stuff long term, you have to maintain your physical health. And a big part of that, and especially as you age, but it's not just for people who are 50. My sons are just as concerned, because here's the thing. Your chance to build muscle that you're going to need later in life is when you have that growth hormone, when you have all those awesome hormones surging through your body. That's when you get the maximum absorption of your protein and your amino acids when you're young and you have all those wonderful hormones just raging through you. When you're older and you have less hormones, you actually have to eat more protein in order to, and I'm not a doctor, so go talk to your doctor about this, but I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional. It's all written in my socials and my disclaimers that I am not a medical professional. I'm not your advisor. I'm not your counselor. I'm a journey partner. I'm doing this myself and sharing my experiences. So it is so important that you build muscle early in life when you have the hormones to do it, because you're not going to grow muscle later and you're just going to have to fight to maintain it. So you've got to grow it when you're young. In kind, if you're going to maintain your health after 50, like me, you are, I'm not saying that I'm great at it. I'm saying if you're over 50 like me, what is so important is that you work very hard. I work as if I'm working out to build muscle. I'm working in the gym as if I want to be a bodybuilder. And that just gets me to maintenance. But what I want to see are the exercises I'm doing, the weightlifting, the ballet with the weights on my legs. I do weights on both of my legs. There's too many people I know. They all honk as they go by. They hoot their horns as they go by, because like they ride by so fast, I don't know who they are. And then I'll see them at the coffee shop later and they'll go, I honked at you. And I'm like, well, couldn't tell. It's just a car going by honking. So, so it's really important that you work hard to build muscle. And then as you get older, the work that I do at the gym, I have to eat more protein. So let's say you have in one meal 30 grams of protein in a meal. As you get older, you need more in order to retain that amount. Whereas when you're younger, you will retain and incorporate into your muscles, into healing, into repair. You will use a large percentage of that 30 grams of protein, all those amino acids. Whereas when you're older, it's a lossier transaction to where you might need 40 grams per meal or more in order to just absorb the 30 grams or less. So that is what I'm on a mission to do well, is to maintain my muscle mass, to trigger my muscles towards growth. So the workouts that you do are the triggers. It literally instructs your body, build mass here, maintain mass here, repair here. And then I give it the protein. I do intermittent fasting. So I do high protein meals after my workouts. And there's a lot of research. I keep up on the most recent research. So you can go out and find the most recent research, but they have detected that after you work out, the protein you eat does get incorporated. They've even done experiments where they'll have somebody work out one leg and not the other leg, and then supply protein after the meal. And for the 24 to 48 hours, it's not just the 1 or 2 hours, for the 24 to 48 hours after you've stimulated the muscle, there will be more muscle hypertrophy in the leg that you worked out, and the leg that you didn't work out will not have muscle growth. So it matters. Like, eating protein is one thing, but if you actually want to maintain your muscles, you've got to stimulate it with really tough, strenuous exercise. And it has to be, you have to be triggering it. It can't just be jogging. You have to be really working the muscles. So we're going to go do the Dexa scan, and I'll do a couple of video clips. I'll do some pictures. Maybe I can find pictures from the past years when all three of us, my 2 sons and I, were there. I know I've got the ones where I've got pictures from past years. So what we're going to see, and I will share some of my reflections on the data. I won't share my actual weight or fat percentage. And here's the thing, is I protect some of my personal data because I don't want to be doing these measurements for the outside world. It's very important for me to measure for myself. When I was young, I had so many levels of stressors, from family and household stressors to bad advice, the fat-free world back in those days where they said, oh, eat fat-free. And then you add to that pressures of being a ballet dancer, and that anorexia was like, it was kind of like a rite of passage of, like a ballet dancer is like, that's what you do. And it was in every book about ballet, like, and then she got anorexia. Yeah. That was like the goal. It was terrible. And so, then I had health issues and that kind of thing. Then what I'm proud of is I really, really fought for my health and did a lot of research. And lo and behold, when you do all those things right, you get pregnant having babies beautifully, and then your body gets all squishy, and then your chest gets out to a double D size, and it's just a wild ride where, as a woman, if you're healthy, your body does crazy things. Your bras, you have to buy all new bras, your double D or E, and you're having babies and doing all this great stuff because you're following what your body needs in order to do its job. It's amazing what your body does every day. And so along that journey, you can't be judgmental. You have to go with the flow. You have to right, garbage in, garbage out. So you don't put garbage in, but you also can't judge yourself when your body's getting squishy and plump to have babies and that kind of thing. So I'm very careful at every stage of my life. And I've learned with wisdom from times when I was very judgmental and tough on myself. I'm not going to share data because I feel like if I come back next year or if I go in this year and my weight's higher, that kind of thing. But here's the fun of the Dexa scan. The concept of weight and losing weight doesn't mean anything. Losing weight does not mean anything. Gaining weight does not mean anything. That's not data. That's not input. Have you gained muscle? Because I could go, I literally have gone places knowing that I gained muscle and lost fat. And I've had nurses say, oh, you gained a little weight. You might want to lose that. I was like, oh my gosh, you're a medical professor. And you literally are telling me that my gain and lean mass is bad. And I like the whole medical profession doesn't know what they're doing in that way. So whenever anybody talks to you about weight or BMI, it's not data driven. You've got to go get a Dexa scan to know your actual lean mass growth and your actual fat loss or growth. And then you can modify. Then you can change the way you work out. You can change your cardio and your weightlifting and that kind of thing. Totally different data, totally different value in terms of your actual health. And so every year, like I think if everybody could go get a Dexa scan, you get real good data about what you're doing. And then you can actually, there's no more like those days where you hop on the scale and you put on 5 pounds magically and you don't know why. That's probably not lean mass because you probably can't, gaining 5 pounds of muscle mass is really, really tough. But it also isn't, it isn't fat. You can't put on 5 pounds of fat in a day. So there's, your potassium, your magnesium, your electrolytes, they all change the way you retain and that kind of thing. So anyhow, I like to be data driven. I don't like to be in the fictional world of saying lose weight or gain weight. I just like to be data driven because that's where you actually have levers of control and levers of change and growth and that kind of thing. So I also want to see is what I've been doing this year working. Last year, I actually put on some fat when I had been loading on a very particular set of low carb amino acids in the evening. And it turned out some of those amino acids are stealth glucogenic. And I was like loading glucogenic amino acids in the evening and I think putting on weight. So I put on some weight last year and yet I relatively maintained muscle. So this year I want to see, did I maintain or grow muscle, which is always my goal. But as a woman of my age, it's kind of like when you work to grow, you're probably maintaining. And then I want to see lean mass and then see if anything else has changed. And I also get the bone read, but I get the bone read from another doctor scan at other times of the year. But want to make sure I've always had perfect bone mass. So I'm good there. That's also a big part of longevity. So anyhow, happy Dexa Day. Let's go. See ya.
Guys, look, we made it to Tampa.
Okay, so we're back from the Dexa scan and we had a great time. Luke and I always have a good, funny time. And Donovan
Hello, buddy boy. I know you have to be on camera all the time. So it was great and it's so much fun. And especially doing this year on year, we are able to see the trends. And I know I was doing weird things last year. I can definitely see that I like what I'm doing this year more than last year. Donovan is going in circles here. You see this tail? He's just circling here. What are you doing? Yeah, so I like what I'm doing this year because guess what? Even though I'm getting older, I increased my lean mass, which anybody who's being healthy and low carb like me, there's a fine line between being so low, I do intermittent fasting, I'm low carb, and I watch my health, but the prior year, I lost lean mass, even though I was working out really hard. So that can be a bad sign and a sign that you're not kind of maintaining the muscle growth phase enough through the way you're eating. It's this phase of mTOR versus AMPK. It's not, I'm not a doctor and I'm not a researcher, so I'm not going to advise you on these things, but you want to balance out. So I like to balance out the fasting portions. I also like to let my celiac stomach rest for a lot of hours. So I let my celiac stomach just rest for a good 18 to 20 hours a day instead of having to work on digestion so much. But it is nice to know that while last year I did some experiments, I was very, very carnivore, very, very low carb. And I was also doing in order to kind of like try to get a lot of everything and the muscle mass, I was doing two things. So I was doing my carnivore snack at night was these like mega fat bombs, like just pure fat. And it was a nice way to get electrolytes because it would be like a salty kind of thing. But in the end, I think it wasn't serving me well for the balance of lean mass versus fat mass. And then the other thing I was doing is I was taking certain amino acid protein or powders at night. And I've stopped doing that. I've just kind of had my meal now this year. I have my meal. It's high protein. I kick it off with a certain amino acid. So when I have my meals, there is one amino acid amidst all 20x amino acids. There's one that your body says, if there is more than 2 grams of this in a bolus in the beginning of the meal, I understand this is a plenty. This is a meal of protein where I can do the most expensive thing that nature would ever do, which is grow muscle. So nature wants to conserve to survive first, and to grow muscle is the most luxurious and expensive thing. So to let your body know it can do that, to know that it's a time of a plenty, there's one amino acid. And if you're one of these geek people, you'll know what this amino acid is. So last year I was ending after the meal, almost like as a dessert, having this protein thing, but it was a mix of certain amino acids. But while they were considered to be ketogenic amino acids, meaning non-sugar inducing, they're not the glycine that you would think is just like kind of the more glucogenic. Apparently, some of these supposedly ketogenic, non-glucogenic amino acids were driving a glucogenic response, like basically potentially driving up my insulin and that kind of thing. So between having these fat things, these fat bombs essentially at night, and then those certain essentially glucogenic amino acids, I think what I was doing was telling my body to drive up insulin and grow, store fat at night, which probably wasn't good. And then I don't think I was really serving myself that one special secret amino acid before my meal in order to let my body know this meal is a large meal of protein. You can store it as muscle. You can use it for repair and muscle hypertrophy. So this year I totally modified it. I skipped the evening amino acid powders, like the whole thing. And I just said, with my meal, I'm going to kick it off with that one trigger, that one marker that your body looks for to say, is this a meal of a plenty of protein? Did we just catch a catch a tiger or catch a lion and you're going to eat this whole lion. So I now trigger my meals. So I really can see that when I eat my high protein meal of the day after fasting, and I do it after working out, so my muscles are telling my body, yes, we are hungry for growth and repair. And then if I say, do we have enough nutrient, I give this trigger, this one amino acid, that is the trigger to say, yes, body, we have a plenty. We have more than enough. This is not a time to conserve. This is not a time for autophagy. This is a time to build. Take this and go. Do the most expensive thing. We're going to build muscle, which is something your body would never voluntarily do. So I think this is working because this year, my data says I grew, as a woman over 50, I grew muscle mass. And I bet my son in the car when we were on the ride there to the Dexa Scan, I bet him, I said, I'm going to bet there's going to be 1 pound of growth in my rear end. And I got that. And it was because some of the exercises he showed me and some of the other ones I added. And I've been doing that this year, and I wasn't doing that the prior year. And so I have a 1 pound extra of lean mass in my rear end. And then overall, I have more total lean mass by several pounds, which is incredible, again, for a woman my age. And so I'm doing the right things between the weights at the gym, the very strenuous power yoga, where it's basically, power yoga is like push-ups and crunches for an hour. It's tough. And then the ballet with the weights on my legs, and then doing all the other things to just keep moving with a little cardio and that kind of thing. But cardio isn't going to keep you strong, the strong bones and the muscle mass you need in order to really survive long term in aging, in the portion of life that we call aging. And so I think it's incredible to have the data, because I have changed my behavior every year for a good 6 or 7 years. I've changed my approach or my strategy. And the thing that women my age get warned of is, if you're trying to be too lean, you're going to end up losing muscle and not fat, or you might lose more muscle while you lose fat. And so for me, I've found a thing that's working. And so I'm going to keep along this thing. So yeah, so this is great data. And as the whole KindEdge 360, when you're building the foundation to have the energy to do tough things, the energy to do the great things you want to do, the energy that you need to have a tough conversation with an attorney, the tough conversation with an employer, all these things, you need the core foundation of mind, body, soul, systems, data, not kind of what you think, but actually data-driven information to help you make sure you've got the foundation to do all the other great things you want to do. So I have found that that's magical for me. Any tough time, and I went through a lot of tough times that I've talked about in my past videos, and I truly think I didn't fall into depression because the way I sound recent hurricane, house troubles, I didn't fall into depression. I didn't turn into a zombie. I've seen people have a tough time digging out and tough time finding new rhythms and new patterns that feed their souls. And then there's other tough things that have happened in prior years. And amazingly, I was able to be very resilient. I knew what I needed and when I needed it. And I knew I do just as much rest in these videos, you don't see me sleeping. But I do just as much rest and relaxation as I do all the tough stuff and the energetic stuff and the social stuff. I probably do more sleeping than the average bear, and I treat it like a science and a religion, because again, as we age, I already hear of friends saying, I don't even sleep through the night anymore, I'm like, I sleep like a baby. I am knocked out most nights, not every night, but most nights. And so I wake up, like this morning I was up at 4:30 in order to do all the Dexa Scan. I needed to go to earlier yoga and blah, blah, blah. And so I woke up at 4:30. I had gone to bed at a reasonably normal time, like still early, but reasonably normal last night. But it's the fact that I went to bed and went ka-chunk, like deep sleep. And I woke up, bing, my eyes woke up before the alarm went off at 4:30. So I treat these as religion because it's the foundation of everything. It's how you feel. And anything that, like, I literally take my cup of coffee in the morning and I'm like, wee, this is the best cup of coffee ever. And it just feels good. So you've got to get the foundation to have that joy in taking on the tough stuff and the annoying stuff. I had a screw in my tire recently, and they thought that it was patched well, and then they're like, this just isn't going to take, so I have to get a new tire. So flat tire issues, stressors, it doesn't stress me at all. I'm like, it's just a thing because I feel good. I slept well. I'm just doing the next thing and the next thing. And I will say also fasting makes it so that my blood sugar is always even, so I don't get hangry. There were times when I was much younger in my teens and 20s. I absolutely think that if I wasn't doing the low carb lifestyle, based on family genetics and gene tests and other tests, I've done continuous glucose monitors, I've done blood, tests and that kind of thing. I guarantee I would have diabetes. I was the hypoglycemic, hangry, hungry in an hour, must have something, couldn't get energy from normal food, had to find something high carb to get energy out of it. For decades, I had that. And I researched all my other challenges. I know about my celiac disease. I know about MTHFR, inability to intake certain B vitamins that impact your entire metabolic process, your entire methylation process. So I've researched everything because I've got to get this machine to work to get all my ideas out and to get all my happiness out and to get all my social experiences out. I've just got to keep the machine running. And so it's a religion to me because it's the only thing you have. Like, it is a religion because even if you have a religion, you're not going to be able to do your religion and experience it and share and go to church or whatever your religion is. You can't do that unless this body bag moves with you. And, my father died at 50. When his body bag stopped moving with him, his brain went too, and his brain was freaking amazing. And so that's what we have to do, is just keep this machine running to let all the other good stuff happen. So it is more than a religion to me. And I'll beg, borrow, and steal for the next bit of data. I don't experiment on the most trendy, unproven data, but I definitely, I understand how my glucose runs. I understand my genes. I understand, I've tested different diets, different workout programs for, as I said, the last 6 or 7 years, if not a decade. I've always done the normal thing, but then I was like, well, is the normal thing having the results I need to make this thing work for the long term? And so that's where data like this Dexa Scan process really is a tool. And the whole drive home, and even for the next time my son and I sit down at a restaurant, we go over this data and we say, well, that means that I was doing this, so I can totally think of between 2003 and 2004, I can look at the data and remember what I was doing and see my notes. And then I know exactly what I was doing. I was very specific in 2022 to 2023. I know what I was doing. Then 2023 to 2024, I know what I was doing. And that was the absolutely pure carnivore, heavy fat bombs at night, and that weird amino acid mix, that very specific, I was adding very specific amino acids from different, very like single amino acids, not like a mix that you buy at the store, not a whey protein powder. It was like ornithine and this and this and this. It was very specific. And I think that was not serving me well. And then again, I wasn't taking that one trigger amino acid to actually tell my body, you have enough of a plenty, a bolus. We just caught a lion. You've got everything you need. You can waste some of it on the expensive process of muscle building and muscle repair. So I can see what's working, and it's pretty cool. And I always keep notes and data, do what works in real life. So I test it, I take data, did that work, modify, change. But every time you make these changes, you're building better for you. And that's why I say, like, KindEdge is the project of you, and this foundation is the foundation for the project of you. And so go geeky, go deep, do this. I just like to share this. And is there anything else I want to share on here? It's just really cool data. Like, I will dig into this for the rest of the weekend. It's funny to see imbalances in. So this is what's really funny is most of my right and left lean mass is very equal. My legs are 17.1 pounds of lean mass, each leg exactly. But get this, there's like 3 percentage more fat percentage in my right leg versus my left leg, which makes no sense. Like, why is my body, what am I doing to make that happen? And so I have like several parts of my body where there's higher fat on the right, and I'm right-handed, versus the left, which I think is crazy. And I don't know if there's a trigger of if you use something more that your body sends more fat there, but I find it intriguing because it's not necessarily that way on my sons. And but then it's really interesting to see, like, my son does really heavy weights. He does heavy weights in his arms. He does really heavy weights in his legs. He was able to demonstrate, growth in his chest because he does all these, the big stuff, and he can just go, and, but then one of his legs is definitely, I think, like 1.5 pounds more lean mass than the other leg. And so it just shows that even though he works everything out equally, that your right, I think it was his right leg, so his dominant leg, just gets more. And so in a kid like that who's very in a growth mode, it's gonna, like, if you give something a little bit more, it's gonna grow a lot faster. And so you can just see all these things. Data is so yummy and cool. And so I would just encourage people to go geeky on you, because you've got one machine to take care of. This isn't an iPhone that you can buy a new one. This isn't a car. Who cares about your car? Who cares about your house? Who cares about anything else you own except for this machine right here? And so you can take care of it with data. So I wish you the best. I hope you will join me on this KindEdge journey. You can subscribe. You can go to kindedge.com to subscribe. And please share this video with anybody that you think is geeked up for this kind of journey and who needs a big life change in easy, doable steps to unlock the alternate ending to your life. You've got a goal. You've got something you want to unlock. You've got an idea, a craving, a side hustle that you want to be your main hustle. You want to get it out there, and you want to find what's the first step and the second step and the third step to unlock that. So please share and join me on this journey. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be fun. Peace. So this is so cool to see in this bone density portion of the measurements. They've got the details where year on year, I can see that my bone density is actually improved. And you can see that the average bone density will decline. And if I continue to fight it with the trends that I'm doing with heavy, strenuous exercise, not just cardio, but doing hard, strenuous exercise that will drive the wonderful nutrients I consume into my bones. It will make my bones hungry for dense nutrients. I can fight the trend and maintain great muscle mass. So then, along with my strong muscles that will prevent me from having a hip fracture fall, if I do fall, there's a good chance that I won't have that broken hip. And that broken hip that you get generally in older age, you break a hip. 30% of people who break a hip die within a year. Because of complications and a decline by not being able to be fully independent and mobile. And so if you want to avoid death, a rapid death, make sure you're looking at your bone mass, you're looking at your muscle mass, and you're maintaining your ability to be agile in a fall, and you will be indomitable. That's a superpower. Power.